We're also joined by Andy Hancock from the Global Schools Group, Cognita, who have been instrumental in helping shape this resource. Andy, could you say a few words to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Andy Hancock. I'm the Education Director for Cognita Asia, and previously Deputy Superintendent and Principal and whatnot, but now I'm working with Cognita as Education Director. I also get the opportunity to work with these lovely people from UCL and the IOE.
Thank you. I'm very interested to hear about how this resource came to exist, Andy. I believe the idea came to you in a coffee shop.
It most certainly did. So quite a few years ago, soon after Catalyst, which is another a product that this particular group put together, when Catalyst was launched, I was just new to my role as the education director in Asia. And just to set the context, we have about 17,000 students, give or take, across Asia in 5 different countries. And so in thinking about my particular role as education director and how I might cascade learning, this was something that was a pretty difficult challenge for me. And so as all good stories start, it's usually over a cup of coffee. And I was actually visiting a Starbucks. I had my Catalyst box, and I'd gone through it a couple of times and found it intriguing conceptually. And I thought in terms of mid-level leadership, it was a really great resource. But what I was really struck by it was actually at a Starbucks. And what I was really struck by was that everyone Starbucks was super busy, and that everyone was getting the type of coffee that they wanted, right? So people were ordering their soy lattes and their flat whites and their espressos and different drinks and whatnot. And what struck me is that Starbucks was really onto something. And now I'm a former math teacher. And when I was looking at just the key components or the key ingredients of the coffee that they're selling, it was espresso and some sugar and different kinds of milk. And when you actually do the math, and I was scratching out the numbers on the back because I was curious about how many combinations there were. And I got up to something like 60,000 or 64,000 different combinations from all the different types of how you could put these key components together. And while I was having my coffee and, being in awe of this sort of trick that Starbucks had up their sleeve, it struck me that we should create a really great learning resource for our colleagues that almost acts like Starbucks. It has these really great key components. They're simple, but they're excellent, and they can be put together in a way that actually satisfies the needs of the person that's using it, right? So, or that's ordering the coffee. So in the same way that we can all go to one coffee shop, and walk out with our coffee drink, and none of them are exactly the same, I think is really fantastic. So yeah, this idea of creating a resource in this light was really interesting to me. So what ended up happening is that I was thinking a lot about metacognition, thinking about self-regulated learning, self-regulation, and I set a meeting with Karen actually, and went to visit and tried to unpack, and she helped me unpack this crazy idea. And I think I kept on talking about all these key components and the whole bit, and Karen, in this really brilliant way, was able to distill all of the madness that sits inside my head around this area, and said, you know what, I think we can do something here. I think this is interesting, and I think I have the team that can do this. So she took it away, she thought about it, and then came back and said, let's try to do something, and that was the start of Activate.
Thank you, Nahida, and hello, Andy. How lovely to see you again. It's a great to be reminded of that story, because I remember that genesis really, really well. I'm trying to get my head around, what does he mean by this? Are we meant to have Starbucks on the logo or something? What's going on? So it was a great idea, very creatively generated. And as you say, you'd worked with us on something called Catalyst, which is the resource that myself and Carol Taylor and Louise had designed with Chris Brown some years ago, an active form of professional development using cards as a resource. So yeah, we felt we could build on it. It was exciting to think about the way you wanted to move forward with it, Andy. As you know, my role, one of my roles at SAL at IOE, was to bridge the link between practitioners such as yourselves and the fabulous school groups that we worked with, Cognita and others, one led by Nahida, as I remember, in South London, and connect school practitioners and schools with the research base, essentially, and what's known about the issues that you're exploring. So what I wanted to do and what we wanted to do at IOE was to connect and think about the professional, what's known about great professional learning in order to develop this resource, but also obviously what's known about metacognition and self-regulation. So that was our starting point, trying to bring those two things together into an interactive resource. And that was particularly exciting because it was thinking about teachers in terms of their own self-regulation and agency, if you like, as well as students and students in school. So developing those two things alongside them, each other was a very exciting prospect. And so it was fabulous to be able to bring in Professor Louise Stoll, who will tell you about her area of expertise in a moment, related to, of course, creative professional learning and activating learning in both adults and learners, but also James Mannion, who is working with us and whose knowledge and expertise is around self-regulation and metacognition. So let's hear from those two now. Shall I pass you first of all over to James to talk about more about the background and the research around self-regulated learning?